All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, every time I make a Kobe Bryant video, his fanboys get so upset. But they don't understand I would not have to say the things that I say about Kobe if he would just speak the truth. Like Will Smith said when he played Dr. Bennett Omalu in the film Concussion. Tell the truth. Just tell the truth, man. Stop sitting up on TV trying to act as if you're some basketball guru who's so different from everyone else and you never considered leaving the Lakers because you're so loyal. Dude, you tried to leave the Lakers 3 separate times. Why am I bringing this up? Because as we can see here, Kobe Bryant sat down with Mike Greenberg and the question was asked to him about super teams, and he starts to go into some spiel about how he's a quote-unquote Laker lifer. So anyway, they're going to talk about it and I'm going to chime in.
What do you think, all the player movement, all the guys coming together? You played your whole career in Los Angeles, through the good years and the bad years. A guy like Dirk, it almost feels like this is the end of that time. When, does it diminish it in any way when these guys go from one place to another, team up to try and win?
No, I don't think that it necessarily diminishes their legacy. I just think that the NBA of today is far more mobile. Especially with all the money that players can make off the basketball court. There's nothing wrong with mobility. I think that it actually helps them come to terms with the notion that they're truly a financial asset. You're not supposed to be playing basketball just for the fun. Once you become a professional, your mindset is supposed to be about where you can go to make the most money and do what's best for you and your family. Once again, that is LeBron James's lasting contribution to the NBA. That he woke up so many players to that understanding when he left Cleveland and forsook that false notion about loyalty to the team that drafted him.
I don't think it diminishes it because everybody's doing it, so you wind up having a collection of teams that are competing against each other.
Agreed. Most of the teams in the NBA right now are quote-unquote super teams, if we really want to talk about it. If we're saying that the top teams have 3, maybe even 4 all-star level players. The Philadelphia 76ers right now have 4 all-star level players. So how far off are they from the Golden State Warriors?
You have all these super teams competing against each other. So it makes for good competition. It's certainly compelling as a fan. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's different. I remember calling Dirk back when he was a free agent. And I called him, I said, Dirk, listen, I know, you're not leaving Dallas. I get it. But I got to make the call.
Yeah, because you were desperate. That's why. You knew when nobody was going to play with your ass. And Dirk wasn't going to play with you either.
Yeah, what do you think? He says, yeah, man, you're right, bro.
You're right. You were right. Whatever it was that you were suspecting about whether or not I was going to play with you, you were right. I'm not playing with your ass.
I'm a lifer like you, man. You don't leave.
Now, when did Dirk Nowitzki ever request a trade from the Dallas Mavericks or say that he wanted to leave and go play for the Chicago Bulls like you did, Kobe Bryant? After the Lakers won their first championship in 2000, Kobe Bryant went and told Jerry West that he wanted to be traded. In 2004, Kobe Bryant tried to leave the Lakers. In 2007, Kobe Bryant requested to be traded. But he's a lifer? Okay. Now, from a literal perspective, he's a Laker lifer because he was there for his entire career. It's almost like someone who claims to be loyal to their business partner over the entirety of their partnership. But every time the other partner turns around, the first partner is taking money that's supposed to be accrued to the business and spending it on personal desires. And their understanding is as long as I bring the money back and put it back in place before my partner finds out, everything is okay. Sure, literally, you're showing fidelity to your partner, but you're not operating in good faith.
So it's just a different philosophy about it.
Kobe with Get Up's Mike Greenberg saying super teams make good competition, but he had a different philosophy about it during his...
Oh, please. Your philosophy was, I'll stay in LA after Dr. Jerry Buss was able to make that mega trade for Pau Gasol with the help of Jerry West. It's amazing that no one ever considered that collusion.
In his playing days, he sure did. Max,
Yep.
you're up first. Our super team... Oh, and Will Kane. That was very
Hey,
rude
Will.
of me not to introduce. Hey, Will, what's going
Walk
on?
in, I
Barge
good morning, Stephen
You
A.
did. Oh, it's about time, Max. It's like afternoon, giving
That's
us
right.
a good morning. It's about noon. All right, Will, good to have you with us. Max, I'm
Yep.
coming back to you. Super teams, are they a good thing for the NBA?
Super teams have always been a great thing for the NBA. Not just a good thing, but a great thing. The dynasty has always been a great thing for not just the NBA, but all sports leagues. And whenever a sports league does not have a dynasty, it's very difficult for fans to become enraptured by what they're watching because human beings are narrative-driven individuals. We like storylines. So even though the NFL has a hard cap, which allows for a lot of transitioning of players from team to team, they still have the Patriots. And the Patriots provide that dynasty or that pseudo-dynasty for fans to grasp onto to say, I can't wait till they start losing or I can't wait till they fall. And that's always how we chronicle various eras in different sports. In basketball, the 60s with the Celtics. The 70s were probably the least popular era in the history of the NBA. Why is that? Because you had no dynasties. In the 80s, you had the Lakers, the Celtics. At the very end, you had the bad boy Pistons, which were almost like an interregnum period to prepare the NBA for Jordan and the 90s. Then you had that little break where you had the Spurs and the ratings started to dip. So now you come with the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. The 2000s was kind of a rough patch for the NBA. Why is that? Because once again, in the mid-2000s, you had different teams jockeying for position. The Pistons in 04, you had the Spurs pop up in 05, and 06 you had the Heat, in 07 the Spurs again. It's very difficult. Then from 08 to the end of the decade, you had the Celtics and the Lakers again to help the league, and then after that you had LeBron in Miami, now Golden State. So that's how you tell the story of the NBA, is through dynasties. So anybody who says that dynasties are not good, they don't know what they're talking about. In order for you to have dynasties, you have to have super teams.
Yes, super teams have always been good for the NBA. The problem is the super duper teams. I had no problem with the Warriors versus the Cavs. But when the Warriors added Kevin Durant to a 73-win team.
Well, here's the issue that I have with that. The Warriors were never a super team until they added Kevin Durant. So that super duper stuff, that's something that you made up out of thin air. That's your way of saying that, in your view, there was not much competition for them. But we've seen that in the past. The 86 Celtics could be considered a quote-unquote super-duper team. I mean, how many Hall of Famers were on that squad? Yeah, Bird, McHale, Parrish, all Hall of Famers. Bill Walton, Hall of Famer. Dennis Johnson, Hall of Famer. They had 5 Hall of Famers on their squad. The Lakers, when they had Magic, Kareem, Worthy. At one time, they had Bob McAdoo. I mean, back in the early 80s, they had Jamal Wilkes. They had a squad, man.
You had an MVP caliber player to a team that already has 3 All-Stars and one of them's MVP caliber. Then it gets like, oh my God, come on. When the Bulls added Dennis Rodman, when Jordan came back, it's like, all right, so the rest of the league doesn't have a chance.
Well, the rest of the league did not have a chance because you combine Michael Jordan with Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman, but they were not a super duper team as you would call it. The Bulls actually were struggling until Jordan came back in the 95 season. And he took it to where, had he been in better condition, they may have been able to defeat Orlando in those 95 playoffs. When they added Rodman, that made them a super team per se, but not a super duper team. It's just that their best player, Michael Jordan, was the equivalent of 2 superstars. Like how Max Kellerman claims that LeBron James is the equivalent of Steph Curry combined with Kevin Durant, which is ludicrous. Michael Jordan literally was the equivalent of 2 superstars. Like Michael Jordan was the equivalent of Karl Malone and John Stockton put together.
And they didn't. And those eras, the Warriors and the Bulls, were not as interesting as, say, when the Heat were playing against the Spurs or something like that.
Well, here's the problem with that statement, Max Kellerman. You claim that the Chicago Bulls era was not as interesting as the Miami Heat era. The television ratings don't tell us that. As a matter of fact, the highest rated NBA finals of all time were most of those Chicago Bulls NBA finals, as well as the Lakers Celtics NBA finals of the 80s. Now, we know that there's a difference in the amount of TV markets that you had back then as opposed to now. But the ratings for many of those Chicago Bulls finals, especially the Bulls versus Phoenix in 93, are astronomical. And I think that the highest rated NBA finals is still the 1998 finals between Chicago and Utah. And if it's not the highest rated series, Game 6 is definitely the highest rated game of all time.
Or especially when the Lakers were playing against the Celtics. Lakers and Celtics, go ahead and take a look at those rosters. They were so loaded, it was ridiculous, but they were evenly loaded. When there's an imbalance and one team is not just a super team, but one is a super duper team.
The Bulls were not a super duper team. The first 3P team had 2 all-star players. The second 3P team had 2 all-star players. And as a matter of fact, The 1998 Bulls team that won their last championship only had one All-Star, that being Michael Jordan. Pippen was not on the All-Star team. Now, of course, he was injured for a large part of that season, but he did not make the All-Star team. And Dennis Rodman never made one All-Star team in the late 90s. Now, people could say that there were some political reasons afoot because they did not want the image of Dennis Rodman to be at the NBA All-Star game. But still, he was not an All-Star.
And no one else is as good. It's not as good. That's my issue. Not with super teams.
Go ahead, Will.
Well, I don't know the technical difference between a super team and a super duper team.
Super duper is some bullshit that Max Kellerman made up. That's the definition. Look at Stephen A's face. He mad as hell. He like, I'm going to call my man Skip and see if he needs any help. Maybe I can replace Shannon Sharp because I can't stand this guy, Max Kellerman.
But, KD. Well, I don't think we have a real substantive disagreement, Max. I mean, I don't want one team standing head and shoulders above everybody else. No fan does because it robs us of drama. It robs us of uncertainty, unpredictability. We want the idea that anything could happen. So if you had, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 super teams, now we're talking about something.
Well, honestly, I think that there are about 4 or 5, maybe even 6 teams that can be classified as super teams right now in the NBA. You can call Philadelphia definitely one. The Rockets, they have 2 superstars in their team. The Warriors, of course. The Celtics, they have at least one superstar in Kyrie Irving and young players who are considered very good players. Gordon Hayward, who was formerly an All-Star. So, I mean, there's a good distribution of talent across the NBA. This notion that the Warriors are this super duper duper unbeatable team and everybody else is 5 levels below them, it's nonsense.
But I think we're close to that, although it's not going to be a super team. Once KD leaves Golden State, we're going to have teams made up of 2 superstars, not 3.
Well, for the most part. There will still be teams that have 3 superstars on them. I mean, who knows? If the Knicks are able to get the #1 overall draft pick and they can sign KD and Kyrie Irving, they themselves may be able to trade for Anthony Davis and become a quote-unquote super team with 3 superstars on the squad.
Not 3 and 4. And the league will be much better, much more interesting. Can I just part with this one thing, Stephen A? I thought Greeny's interview with Kobe was awesome. It was really good. And Kobe is the last of a breed. And you know what? I wasn't the biggest...
He's the last of a breed. Well, you know, to a degree, I would kind of sort of agree with that. If what you're trying to say is that Kobe is the last of the great superstar players who will be with one team for 20 years, that might be true, but we cannot even call him that because Dirk is still in the NBA.
Biggest Kobe fan in his day because he wasn't the most likable character. You know, Shaq was the likable one.
Shaq was the idiot.
Whatever it may be. But I've come to really appreciate Kobe.
No, you've come to buy into his bullshit and a lot of his alternative facts.
Be damned with like. Who cares about being liked? Kobe was singularly focused on accomplishing a goal and doing it in the way that he did it. And man, as time passes, last of a breed, I've come to really appreciate Kobe.
Well, first of all, I've always appreciated, I've always loved.
Yeah, I've always appreciated Kobe Bryant as well. But I've always appreciated him for what he was, which is an all-time great NBA talent, an all-time great NBA player, and arguably the greatest copycat of all time.
Loved Kobe for exactly that reason, because he didn't give a damn about being liked. I can relate. I don't give a damn.
I agree, and that's why I state that I've never had any issues with Kobe's personality. I just have certain issues with his incessant need to tell lies, to push certain false notions about himself.
You might try that one day. Well, it works.
Oh, please, yeah. Well, then I'm failing. If likability is my major goal, then I'm failing.
Yeah, come on, don't get me started. But here's the deal. Kobe wasn't necessarily telling the truth because if you recall, Kobe was willing to leave L.A.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Stephen A. Smith. Please tell him. Let them know.
He was so frustrated with Jim Buss and the Lakers at one point. He was willing to leave. Let's be very, very clear about that until they pulled off that Gasol heist.
Thank you, sir. For Kwame Brown.
All right, and change things around.
Where was he thinking of going?
Chicago.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen A. Smith. Thank you for educating people. I'll never forget that photo of Kobe Bryant dressed up in a Michael Jordan jersey, a Bulls warm-up. I mean, this nigga I think he had Michael Jordan's drawers on.
So bottom line is this. You talk about the super teams and whether or not they're good for years, for the NBA. I happen to think that there's nothing wrong with having. That's what I love about the Yankees. the evil empire, okay? I love that. Where you're sitting there and everybody's gunning for you.
That's the point. That's what makes dynasties in sports great.
But there has to be somebody that can compete with you, that has a shot at knocking you off.
Well, that's easy for you to say, Stephen A. Smith. You know, fans say that whenever the dynasty is not the team that they're rooting for. I'm sure that back in the late 90s, when the New York Yankees were the dynasty, you were not concerned about there being any teams that could knock you off.
When Kevin Durant arrived, no one else had a shot. It was written, even when the Lakers were dominant, they were the Celtics.
Well, in 2017, nobody had a shot. But in 2018, there were a couple of teams that I thought had a shot, particularly the Rockets. But unfortunately for them, Chris Paul went down. I do believe that if Chris Paul had not gotten hurt, they would have won that series because they would have been able to take advantage of Andre Iguodala being hurt. Now, all hands on deck, I think that the Warriors would have won that series in 5 games.
The Pistons were dominant with their back-to-back championships, okay? But they went against the Lakers the first go-round. They had to go through Boston, okay? And then they obviously waxed Portland. When Michael Jordan and the Bulls were making their run, there were interesting competition in the East with the Knicks, the Pacers, and stuff like that. You went against Phoenix with Barkley and Marley. You went against Sonics with the Glove and Sean Kemp before he became Sean Klump. You had all of those things going on. So all I'm saying is that, again, a team like Kevin Durant, so dominant, that's too much. But a super team, not bad.
I think that these current playoffs are going to be far more competitive than people think. I've said this already. I think that the Warriors are going to be pushed in the playoffs. It would not surprise me if they play at least one 7-game series.
By the way, you're misremembering, I think, the Bulls era. No one had a shot against the Bulls. They destroyed it. The Knicks took them.
Well, that's easy for you to say as you look back in hindsight. But at the time, year by year, there were many teams that were viewed as being legitimate threats to the Bulls during that time period. In 92, when they went to the playoffs, you know, interestingly enough, that 92 Bulls team won 67 games in the regular season. It was thought that they were going to march through the playoffs. They swept their first-round matchup against the Miami Heat, and then each subsequent series went at least 6 games. Second-round matchup against the Knicks went 7. Third-round matchup against Cleveland went 6. The finals went 6 against Portland. And there were some moments in the finals, in Game 6, when the Bulls were up 3-2. They were down by 18 points at home against Portland, trying to force a Game 7, and they were able to win. In 93, the Knicks actually were favored to beat Chicago in the conference finals. So Max Kellerman is just looking back, you know, in hindsight and trying to, you know, once again utilize alternative facts to push his false notions.
It took them 7 games once, and you knew they were going to lose, and otherwise they just...
Hey, you guys, I'm sorry to be so rude this whole...
No, the Bulls did not just destroy everyone. That's a lie. As a matter of fact, all of their finals went 6 games except for the first one against the Lakers in 91.
This whole segment, we had the baseball game, we got all screwed up, started on the deuce, so we have to get a commercial.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. Do I think that super teams are good for the NBA? Yes, I do. But it's just funny to me that Kobe Bryant is still lying to his fans. Why is he still lying, trying to act like he always wanted to stay with the Lakers? Be honest, Kobe. For once in your life, be honest. So peace.